Hello, everyone. I am here with Irene Siegel, and we are talking today about the relationship between EMDR and transpersonal psychotherapy. So, Irene, first of all, welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you, what is transpersonal psychotherapy?
Well, I'll tell you my version of transpersonal psychotherapy. So, transpersonal psychotherapy is an outgrowth of transpersonal psychology. And transpersonal psychology is an outgrowth of humanistic psychology. So, in humanistic psychology, they believe that many things make up the whole person, including the soul. In transpersonal psychology, they believe the soul is the essence of the person and everything else is an outgrowth of that. So, in my version of transpersonal psychotherapy, I have created a protocol where I use the EMDR protocol as is the standard protocol. Okay. And within that, I bring in transpersonal resourcing. So in transpersonal psychotherapy, the soul is recognized as an important aspect. And the other thing that makes it transpersonal is that there's shifting states. I recall when Francine Shapiro originally taught, she says, we don't shift states. We're very alert. Well, we shift states all the time. So this is an intentional shifting of states as the therapists themselves learn to be centered and in a deep state of awareness where the client can then start to resonate with that. And magic happens in the office. It accelerates the process of EMDR. And that's a very short description of what it is because there's so much more to it. But it really is about recognizing those deep inner states of interconnection within a field of cohesive energy, if that makes some sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the soul, and I'm thinking about Maslow and the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And I think that most people are familiar with Maslow's model with self-actualization at the top of the model, but we know that Maslow actually, not too long before he died, updated the model. I'm wondering if you can talk about that.
Yeah, it was shortly before he died. And so at the top of the pyramid, beyond self-actualization became an awakening. It was really about awakening, to soul awareness. And he was really one of the founders of the transpersonal movement. So that said a lot, for the movement itself. And yeah, other theorists were coming forward to talk about it. I mean, there's a lot of transpersonal theorists who have written books about this and really recognize the importance of soul awareness.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about awareness. I attended your EMDRIA presentation, and you did talk about awareness in the context of what's going on in the world right now. Like that, there's a lot of chaos, right? A lot of people there's a lot of distress. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about similar to what you started with at your EMDRIA presentation. What's going on in the world, and what do we need to do as individual and maybe as a society to cope better?
Our world is in a state of chaos. And if you look at some of the ancient wisdom traditions, they've predicted this period of time. They consider that we're in a whole new cycle where consciousness is awakening. It's hard to tell that that's happening when we're in the middle of chaos. But really what it is that the shadow aspect of the planet is coming to the surface. And if we move through the chaos, we can come to a place of higher awareness. We can't get there if we're holding old baggage in a more unconscious way. So as difficult as this is for people personally and in terms of planetarily, I do see it as an opening to a new beginning. And this is what has been predicted by many of the ancient wisdom traditions. This new cycle, which they call is the golden age. And in that golden age, they say that we are interconnected to every living thing. And that will to the surface as we move through this cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Wonder if you can talk a little bit about what do these interventions or your transpersonal protocol What does that look like in actuality? And I know what it looks like because I attended your EMDRIA, the 2025 and 2023. So you show some videos. But for those of us who are not familiar with your work, what does that look like?
When we talk about using a transpersonal protocol, the first thing we're talking about is the therapists themselves learning how to get very still and very centered. This is not just healing traditions. Science is showing how we are interconnected in the universe. Even in a room across from someone, or even when we work remotely, that if we can stay in that centered place, a client can mirror us. I consider this to be the ultimate in terms of transpersonal resourcing. But many therapists might already see that their clients are spontaneously awakening to higher awareness, meaning they start talking about their soul, or they're processing in EMDR, and they come out of the processing and they say, I just envision myself as light, and they're stunned. Well, I'm not surprised because of how we're changing, but as a therapist, we can integrate transpersonal resources. That could mean soul awareness, that can mean higher self, that can mean inner teachers and guides, that can mean light, and it all depends on the client. I use the language of the client, and whatever they call it, however they interpret it is fine, and we take it from there. But as a therapist, I'm always aware what's happening in the shifting field, and that helps me determine where I'm going with the client in terms of my own interventions.
Great. So, Irene, on February 18th, we are going to have a free webinar at the EMDR Learning Community. What should our members and those who join us expect to learn in this 1 hour webinar?
What people will learn in this 1 hour webinar is basically what transpersonal EMDR actually is, how I do really work with clients, and we'll talk a lot more about transpersonal resourcing. They will learn, what needs to be done on their part as a therapist in order to be able to step into these shared energy spaces with their clients. Many therapists are doing it. They always tell me they just didn't have a language for this. They will learn a little bit about how to bring this process into the 8 phases, especially phase 2, which is about resourcing. When we get to installation, I always go beyond just taking installation to a VOC of a 7. We go beyond. And as long as clients keep going beyond, I follow with them. And that's when they will say to me, I was feeling as if I wasn't lovable. Now I know I'm lovable. Now I know that I am light. Now I know that I am. And that can happen very quickly. And clients can be surprised, but it completely changes their perception of the trauma. Now they are going from healing trauma to giving it meaning, often a spiritual meaning, which takes the charge out of the trauma itself. And then from there, they can move into a higher awareness of what this is really about in terms of their life's path. So we will be talking about that.
Excellent. Speaking of language, there's one word that keeps repeating in your work and in the articles and the book that you wrote, and that's the word resonance. Can you explain the meaning? What is resonance? Why is it important for us to be mindful of that as EMDR therapists?
We're always in some sort of resonance with our clients, whether in it or out of it, where the client perceives what's happening in the field. So, for example, everybody has the experience. We walk into a party, someone walks in and all heads turn because something changed in the field. For the better, for the worse, whatever it is, something changed. A client steps into your office, you know immediately the mood of that client. Okay. So when the therapist can maintain a resonance with the earth, with their own soul, and then with what's happening in the field with the client has the option of resonating with the therapist or not. There's no expectation here. But if they step into that resonance, which is really a field of coherent energy and information, that's when the acceleration of healing really takes off. And that's when trauma can be healed very quickly. Even with clients that have complex PTSD, there's interventions we can do within more of a family systems framework using some of these transpersonal resources. And so with that, clients move very, very quickly, and they step into an awareness that they never even really knew was there. And you can't undo that. Once they are there and they've had that awareness, you can't take it away. You can help them to reinforce it. You can help them to make it a stable field within themselves. Okay. But once it happened, it happened. So it becomes very profound for the client.
Okay. You generously offer a monthly meditation group for free for people to join. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when the COVID pandemic started and everybody was stuck at home, I started doing a Friday night free meditation, which was for personal and global healing. And at the time, the focus was COVID. And then COVID lifted, and so we went to every other Friday, and now we're doing it monthly. The focus is no longer COVID, but there's so much chaos in our world that people feel that they need to come together and rise above the stress of what's happening in the world. So I do it once a month. It's for free. Anybody can join. You have to register, but there's no fee for registration. And I do a little introduction to what we're doing that night. And then I do a meditation, which is about a half-hour meditation. And then there's some time to share experiences if you choose to. There's no expectation of that. Completely up to the individual. And people love it. And then what I do is I record the meditation, and I take the meditation itself and I post it on my Facebook page, which is Irene Siegel, PhD. So anybody can listen to it at any time. And people find it very soothing and very helpful.
Excellent. So one more question, Irene. You are going to have a retreat in Hawaii in 26. Can you share a little bit about the program? You've done it before. So what should people expect if they were to interested in joining you in Hawaii?
If people join me in Hawaii, they can expect to learn a tremendous amount about transpersonal EMDR, and they can expect to transform within themselves. I have a guest teacher that comes in for a day or so. She's a Hawaiian high priestess. She takes us to sacred sites. We do ceremony. We bring it back into an EMDR process, and people leave there transformed. So I've been doing it actually for about 10 years with my co-sponsors, which is the Greenwell Conservancy out in Hawaii, and they're amazing. And it's a beautiful program. We go from April 19th to the 24th. We stay at a beautiful retreat on the big island of Hawaii, which has a lot of amenities, and it's a beautiful experience for everybody. I love teaching it. People can receive 30 EMDRIA credits and 30 CEs.
30 EMDRIA credits to 30 CEs. I attended your EMDRIA presentation. I talked with people who've been in your retreat before, and they were beyond blown away from the experience. They described it as transformative. So for those who are interested, all the links to Irene's work, her book, and her upcoming webinar with the EMDR learning community and the retreat in 2026 will be below this video, wherever you're watching this video. So Irene Siegel, thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to seeing you February 19th, 2026 for our webinar in the EMDR learning community.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to see you and your group as well.